Welcome to That Health Show with David and Derek. This is Derek on behalf of honeycombs.com, here with you every Monday at 11 a.m. on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX. If you want to enjoy better health and have more energy, then this show's for you. We promise that every show you'll learn something, giving you more power to take control of your health and happiness. A little bit about myself. I'm a cancer survivor who over time became a health researcher. Now, at first, this was about my own survival. I had to figure out how to change course and fast. Otherwise, game over, show's over, I'd be done. Now, today, I spend my time reaching out to people like you. How can I help you by giving you information that can change your life and maybe save your life, depending on where you're at today with your health? I'm joined by my co-host, David, who has over 14 years experience in the nutrition industry. He spends his time in the field working directly with real people, helping them to get real results, and most importantly, just to feel better every day. So many people out there today are struggling with their stress, with their energy levels. They don't feel good. They don't have the vitality to do the things they enjoy the most, to go have fun. We have to change that. Now, David, as I said, he spends his time educating people about the science of great health and what it takes to get there. Now, David, everybody knows that they should take their vitamins. It's become sort of a generic advice. We know that we should, but I think a big problem is that a lot of people don't understand why. What is going on inside the body? Why are these vitamins so important to things like not just your general health, but really feeling better, having a longer life, more time with family and friends? All these great things, and really getting into the power of nutrition, which information is power. You need to know what these things are doing in your body. So for the listener, let's start at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about, just from your own experience, working in the field for so long, working directly with people. Please explain just a little bit about what vitamins actually are, some of the history about how vitamin supplements even came to be, and why vitamins play such a crucial role in our health and happiness.
Right, Derek. Well, thanks for the introduction there. Vitamins are much like tools that our body uses in order to orchestrate a lot of chemistries that make things function. So to give you an idea, the body is made of 60 to 80 trillion cells. Now, that's a lot of cells. You think?
Now, wait. So not thousands, millions, billions. That's 60 to 80
right.
trillion.
And we're comparing this with, say, as many people are on this planet. We're pushing 8 billion people on this planet. So your body alone is a orchestration of working, living, functioning cells that communicate, that perform in order for us to be alive. So they live and die just the same as we all do, through a process what we call mitosis. So with these many cells as they need specific tools, and these tools are our vitamins and minerals. So it's been said that the body is composed of 4 elements. We all remember back in our 5th grade biology that we have 92 elements on this planet. These 92 elements make up this planet and everything on it. And we can rearrange these elements, but we can never destroy or bring in more elements specifically. So our body is made of 94% of it is made of 4 elements, and those 4 elements are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. And so the other 6% of the body is composed of more inorganic minerals, so such as like calcium or magnesium.
Now let me real quick interrupt you. If researchers and the scientists have it nailed down that I believe you said 96% of the body
right.
is made up of just the 4 elements, why can't they just jump in a laboratory, get the elements from the extractions and build, let's say, a new human? What's going on behind the scenes there to make that magic biology of life really happen?
Well, that's funny you asked it. I think that's the ultimate science behind science. That's our ultimate goal. Right. Once we can create a new human, well, then, we've kind of played the role of God, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So the reason we can't do that, for all the listeners out there, is due to enzyme activities. So to to imagine enzymes are much like little workers inside of our body. And what they do is they put these molecules together in such a specific sequence of proteins, fats, carbon, sugars, and then they also dissolve them. So to give you an example of this this process, we call this process mitosis. So enzyme activities kind of go through, they unravel DNA, they duplicate this DNA, and then they kind of remanufacture this DNA, and then over the process of this mitosis, this cell division then occurs, and we have what we call two identical cells, or two sister cells, and then that allows one cell to die while the other one replaces its parent cell, and the process then starts over. What allows us to perform so in sync is our genetic code, of course. But the genetic code tells these enzymes when to and when not to become activated and function and perform in these sequences. So that being said, vitamins and minerals, a better term for vitamin and minerals, are actually coenzymes. Now, the reason we call them vitamins is because they are vital to man. That's not something that, hey, these are helpful or these are useful or these are just fun. These
recommended.
Right. Yeah, we don't just suggest these. They are vital. And I mean by that is they are vital for the cell function and activity to perform. So you can imagine if you're not getting these vital tools intentionally, and our American diet doesn't allow us to, believe it or not, it's almost like you have to go out of your way to get them, and that's why we create supplements, is to allow somebody to get what they need and kind of bypass the ability of diet, because with our foods these days just don't permit the nutrition that our bodies require, and if anything, they actually tax our body on nutrition. They don't actually give our body any nutrition, because it takes more time and energy to process these man-made foods than what we get out of them. So in general, we're all deficient unless we are going out of our way to make sure we are getting healthy foods and healthy nutrition within our lifestyles. It's kind of fun, though. The history with vitamins is, back in our day when we first discovered vitamins, we knew that we needed them. We didn't exactly even know what they were. And we actually discovered vitamins back with sailors on ships when all these sailors started developing a disease called scurvy. So scurvy would be present in America, but it only affected sailors. And we didn't understand why. We just knew that it did. But a scientist discovered that if we left a little bit of a lemon, a little bit of lime on these ships for these sailors to consume, then scurvy would stay at bay. And we called them limeys for fun. Right. So we didn't know that it was actually vitamin C that was in the lemons and limes that prevented scurvy, but we did know that it was something in them. So we did later on discover vitamin C, and then we started discovering other vitamins. So we found vitamin A, we found the B vitamins, we found vitamin D, and we found that they all had a specific function. Well, of course, we as Americans, and I'm sure as just humans, we had to create some laws. And so these laws of vitamin had to be followed very specifically. So the first law of vitamin is it had to be vital to man. Hence is the name vitamin.
Makes sense.
Right. So the second rule of vitamin was it had to be something the body needed, but it couldn't be something the body itself could create. So a perfect example of this would be a molecule called glutathione. The body, it's a perfect vitamin. Only problem is the body itself can manufacture it. So it's ruled out in the vitamin world. And the third rule of vitamin is it had to be composed.
David, I hate I hate to stop you. You're in the middle of a great story, but we do have to take a quick commercial break. Now, once again, folks, you're listening to That Health Show with David and Derek. To learn more about what we do at Honeycombs Industries, give us a call toll free, 1-888-447-1653. That's 1-888-447-1653. And of course, you can visit us online at honeycombs.com. Now, don't move a muscle, because when we get back, we're going to talk about the science behind stress management, energy, and emotional balance. You're definitely going to want to stick around for this as we pick back up with David and talk more about the power of nutrition. Once again, you're listening to That Health Show with David and Derek on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX. And we're back. Once again, you're listening to That Health Show with David and Derek right here on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX. Now, David, I feel terrible. I had to cut you off. You were right in the middle of a fantastic story about...
extremely rude, Derek, by the way.
about vitamins and the role that they really play in the body, why exactly they're so vital to man, so necessary to our health and happiness. And,
right.
I have to tell you, a lot of this information, it's stuff that we don't hear in school, even at the college level in a lot of cases. I really want you to pick back up with this. Now, you're right in the middle of explaining the 3 rules of vitamins, and it helps to show why they're so important. So please pick back up with that.
Right. Well, the rules for vitamins are pretty much pretty basic. So in order for a vitamin to be technically called a vitamin, and keep in mind that the word vitamin itself it is derivative from it being vital to man. So that's the whole purpose of calling them vitamins. So these rules really prevent other vitamins from kind of being introduced into the market and kind of placeboing people into believing that there's other vitamins out there. So we set these rules, and if these structures meet these rules, then we can call them a vitamin. If they don't, of course, they may be helpful or useful, but they're not absolutely necessary for the body as vitamins are. So again, I kind of capped on before. First rule of vitamin is that it has to be vital to man. The second rule of vitamin is that it has to be something that the body can't make on its own. So it has to be something that you have to physically put in your mouth. You can't just get it out of thin air. You have to actually give your body this vitamin because your body cannot make it its own. A contradiction to this would be like certain proteins. So, and the third rule of vitamin, when I was talking earlier about how the body is composed of 4 elements, mostly of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, a vitamin has to be composed of carbon. Absolutely has to be. So if it's not, it can still be certain minerals. Now, minerals have very uniquely important roles too, and they're all about just as important as vitamins, and that's the kind of one rule that rules minerals away from vitamins, is that they are not composed of carbon. They are actually their own entity on that periodic table, if we remember back in 5th grade. So right. Calcium you'll find on that periodic table. Magnesium you'll find, manganese, iron, and so on. So that kind of sums up kind of why vitamins are so crucial that we do consume them, rather it be through food, rather it be through supplementation. It's necessary that we do get them.
So, in your experience, is it safe to say that vitamins play a huge role in the way we feel day to day, being healthy and tying in with our mental health, emotional health? Would you say vitamins, is it an important thing, kind of important, not so important, depending on who you ask? Some people say vitamins don't matter. They're not real. It's all snake oil.
Right. So, no, and I would go as far as to say they are absolutely necessary for how we feel. So the way we feel is really a chemical reaction within our brain that allows our brain to communicate with its body, and the body telling the brain how it's doing. A prime example of this would be if I were to say, mash your toe with a hammer. That signal being sent to your brain that says, ouch, that hurts, is a clear signal saying that you have some tissue damage. So our mental capabilities and our brain works just the same. So we have certain chemicals that react within the brain that manage our stress and how we feel. So it's a rule, and anyone listening, this is a kind of a fun little fact, that it's a rule of the brain that we can only have one thought at one given time. You have to have a thought. You can't go blank. You can't go without a thought.
It's true.
But it's also impossible to think of more than one thought at one given moment. So we can have a bunch of little thoughts, but we can only have that one thought at that one given time. Well, that one thought triggers a chemical reaction in our brain that gives us a feeling. So you can imagine if that thought is a negative thought, we're going to have a negative feeling. And if that thought is a positive thought, we're going to have a positive feeling based off the chemical reaction that takes place in our brain. So the brain is much like a spider web of nerves we call neurons. And so neurons kind of connect to each other and stimulate the chemical we call a neurotransmitter. Mm-hmm. And so this transmitter actually tells the brain of a memory, a past memory emotion that we've had once upon a time or even more presently. And we can always create new emotions. It's very difficult to break down old emotions, So once we kind of get in a habit, so to speak, of stressful thinking, then our bodies just typically naturally responds negatively or stressfully. So that's why we kind of end up finding ourselves getting mad over, say, silly things.
Well, you bring up getting mad and feeling stressed. Now, I spent years driving around the Arizona Valley, all the way up north to Sedona and beyond, all the way down to Tucson, Yuma, a lot of time on the 101, the I-10, sitting in traffic. I can guarantee that our listeners can identify with this. We all know the feeling. You're stuck in traffic. Somebody comes right up behind you, cuts you off. There's a hair trigger response in the body. Adrenaline begins to pump. Your blood starts to pump. You get angry. Now, in your experience, how do vitamins factor in to that stress equation? Let's say maybe helping their bodies to better manage the stress response, let's say, so people aren't so angry easily.
Right. Well, and I mentioned earlier that you can only have one thought at one given time, and you have to have that one thought at every given time. And depending on that thought will depend on that chemical reaction that takes place in the brain that gives us that feeling. So that feeling is crucial because that one feeling will then trigger the next feeling. So let's just say, for an example, we have a bad feeling. It's impossible to have a bad feeling and a good thought. Impossible. So it's also impossible to have a good feeling and a bad thought. So to answer your question, right, so the thought does matter, and how we feel will then trigger that thought. Because if we're yelling at somebody in traffic, really emotionally breaking down, we have to be cussing out the guy who cut you off. You can't be sitting there thinking of rainbows.
It's true.
yelling at the guy who just cut you off. Right. So that thinking process. So vitamins are very key, and specifically B vitamins. B vitamins, and there's multiple B vitamins. It's not just a B vitamin. And B vitamins work together very uniformly to again manufacture things. Now I mentioned earlier the 3 rules of vitamins being rules, but a better term for vitamins is actually a coenzyme. And coenzymes allow the enzyme activities to take place in our body. Now, again, enzymes, I mentioned earlier, the enzymes are like little workers. They put these molecules together and take them apart that create us. That's what builds the human body. So coenzymes are kind of the switch that turn these enzymes on and turn these enzymes off. And that's important because if you don't have the coenzyme, let's just say you're B vitamin deficient. Let's just say that. So you cannot performs very important chemistries, especially emotional chemistries, to manufacture in the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, manufacture these very key chemicals that make us feel good. So I'm talking dopamine, norepinephrine, there's serotonin, and a few thousand more. So these chemicals in the brain that give us our feelings are chemicals that are manufactured. They're not just magically put there.
So your body needs the supplies.
Absolutely. These are the tools.
The building blocks.
The building blocks. These are kind of like, the B vitamins are the nails and hammers of our body. And if we do not supply them to the body and we go deficient, what does that tell you? That tells us that your body cannot manufacture very key chemicals in the brain that give us very appropriate emotions.
Now, to kind of interrupt you real quick here, would you say that in your experience, it's safe to say that people are maybe not getting or giving their bodies the nutrition that would be ideal? Do you think maybe it's fair to say a lot of people are deficient?
I would say most of America is deficient because it's not in the foods that we consume. All of our vitamins, we do have fortified cereals and things like that with certain vitamins. And the more stressed we are and the more processed foods that we eat, the more unhealthy things that we eat require a lot more nutrients to break those foods down. Now, typically a lot of course, raw foods and things like that do tend to have nutrients to help break themselves down appropriately. But when we have a poor diet, a very stressful lifestyle, we need more vitamins to manage the stress that we just orchestrated.
Now, David, we do have to take a quick commercial break. Now, once again, folks, you're listening to That Health Show with David and Derek. To learn more about what we do at Honeycombs Industries, give us a call toll-free, 1-888-447-1653. That's 1-888-447-1653. And of course, you can visit us online at honeycombs.com. Don't move a muscle, because when we get back, we're going to talk about the science behind great energy. And again, you're listening to That Health Show with David and Derek right here on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX. We'll be right back. And we're back. You're listening to That Health Show with David and Derek on Independent Talk 1100 KFNX. We've been talking about vitamins, why they play such a crucial role into our health, the way that we feel, our emotional balance, and much more. Now, David, I'm sorry I had to cut you off there. We had to take a very quick commercial break. Sitting here on the edge of my seat, want to hear more. I'm sure our listeners feel the same. Now, before we go on, we've been sharing a lot of powerful information about nutrition, a lot of things that some people may have never even heard. It can be very exciting, but I just want to remind the listener very quickly that it's always recommended before you add or take away nutritional supplements, dietary supplements to your life, it's recommended to always first check with your licensed healthcare professional, and always remember that this information is not intended to diagnose, treat, prevent, or cure any disease or to replace the role of your doctor. And these statements have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration. Now, David, working in the health industry and working with people, I can speak personally. I get a lot of questions about energy, and we've been talking about vitamins, how and why they play such a crucial role into the way we feel and making a difference at the biological level. When it comes to vitamins and it comes to energy, and we were talking about B vitamins, please, for the listeners, I'd love it if you can just kind of weigh in with your experience on how crucial a role B vitamins play in the science of great energy.
Right. Well, first of all, for all the listeners, B vitamins specifically, every single cell, and I know I've said it earlier in the show, but again, reminding that the body is made of 60 to 80 trillion cells. Every single one of those cells requires B vitamins as well as a variety of other nutrients and foods. And so with energy specifically, we have a process that the body uses with energy. And we can't really manipulate this process. So what happens here is it starts all with our red blood cell. So our red blood cell is manufactured, and I use that term manufactured because they don't just appear and disappear, right? As much as we like to think
focus.
they are. Right, and again, that's where I think a lot of people may confuse nutrition with a variety of other things orchestrates, is the body has to make everything that's inside of us. And we call this homeostasis. So our red blood cell is manufactured by our bone marrow, and the red blood cells specifically. Our white blood cells are as well. And in this red blood cell manufacturing process, again, B vitamins are necessary coenzymes in activating and deactivating very specific enzymes to function to manufacture. Now, our kidneys are really kind of the organ that regulates when the body does and when the body does not manufacture red blood cells based on the need of how many we have versus how many we need. And so once they're manufactured, the red blood cell has one job. Now, it does be pumped by the heart and transports throughout the entire body, but it stops at the lungs and it picks up an oxygen molecule that we breathe in. And this oxygen molecule then is babysat. Now, the reason the red blood cell is so important to babysit this oxygen molecule is because oxygen is the most abundant molecule on this planet that oxidizes. And that's why we come with the term oxidizing. Now, many molecules do oxidize, but oxygen is the most abundant one on this planet. So it has to be babysat. If oxygen was released just freely in the body, then that oxygen molecule would start oxidizing our tissue. And that would be
free
bad.
radical damage.
Right, we'd
then.
have a lot of free radical damage, exactly. So the red blood cell's job is to babysit this oxygen molecule so it does not oxidize anything other than what's supposed to be oxidized. So then it transports this oxygen molecule to the cell. The cell then takes in this oxygen molecule, and it goes into what's called an organelle. And this specific organelle is called the mitochondria. And the mitochondria then takes a sugar molecule composed of carbon, one of those fun molecules we were talking about earlier, and it compounds the oxygen molecule with this glucose molecule, and there's a kapow. And this kapow is what we call ATP energy. And this is our energy that our body utilizes in order for energy. And again, in this kapow energy, because this energy is harnessed. Now, the same concept of this energy is the same concept as, say, if you were to build a campfire, and you take a log, which would be composed of carbon,
right?
And then you light that log on fire, and we get oxygen from the atmosphere and carbon from the log, and we still get that same kapow, the chemical reaction that takes place. The difference is our body manages that kapow versus the campfire is not managed. It's just free radical explosion.
Uncontrolled free radical damage.
Right, until we run out of either or oxygen or carbon. So your body can manage that very appropriately. And again, it does that with enzyme activities, and those enzymes are then regulated with the coenzymes. So that's kind of, again, the importance of vitamins and how they take several different roles, not just one role. You won't find a B vitamin or a nutrient that really just plays one role. They have hundreds. So this energy then takes place with this kapow. Then the body, now we still have the molecules, and I told you earlier that in science we can never get rid of any molecule. There's an exact number of carbon molecules on this planet, and that exact number has been here since the last meteorite of carbon exploded on this planet.
Right. So until we get another meteorite as a carbon delivery, that's just what we have.
Of course, there's billions and trillions and gazillions of them. However, there's an exact number of every molecule on this planet. So we can rearrange these molecules. We cannot get rid of them, and we cannot add more. So what we've done is we've just rearranged the molecules of this carbon and oxygen. And so in that glucose to oxygen kapow that took place in that organelle, we call the mitochondria, and we harness the energy from that kapow. Now we have a byproduct. And that byproduct is still the carbon and oxygen molecule. We call it carbon dioxide. So that carbon dioxide molecule is then also kind of attached back to that red blood cell, which is so important, and then transports back to the lungs, where we exhale the carbon dioxide molecule compound, and we breathe in new oxygen, and that cycle then starts all over. So you can imagine, with so much to say, with fatigue, and again, we mentioned earlier that typically America is deficient because of our food depletion.
Right.
If we are lacking any of these coenzymes, or the nails and hammers, so to speak, for our body, of course we can't have great energy. Who can? Because we don't have the tools appropriate to manufacture and harness this kapow. Now, that may influence to say we may be a little bit anemic. Lungs may not be kind of appropriately absorbing oxygen. So, there's a lot of chemistry that takes involved in energy, and it may be one of any of the above. But we do find that certain key nutrients are kind of there and present during every step of the way, including back to manufacturing red blood cells, as well as the kapow that takes place in the mitochondria, and the mitochondria manufacturing ability itself. So
in a nutshell, then, basically, without the B vitamins, there's no kapow, the red blood cells can't do their job, and so we can see how the energy process just starts to become
very
derailed.
Compromised. Absolutely. So it can definitely be compromised. And so that could definitely be a harness why energy may be minimal in Americans today. So
and especially considering, sorry to interrupt, but For the listener, in case you don't know, B vitamins, which we were just talking about, are water soluble, which means they're not stored long term in the body. And it really shows the importance of why you need every single day to get good nutrition.
Right.
Now, David, we do have to take another quick commercial break. Now, to the listener, when we get back, I believe personally, just in my own experience, my own research, that the way a vitamin is made is just as important as what's inside it. So I'd love to pick your brain a little bit when we get back about how somebody can be equipped with the right information to make a smart choice for their family when they go out to look for vitamin supplements and things on that line. So once again, you're listening to That Health Show with David and Derek on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX. For more information about what we do at Honeycombs Industries, give us a call toll-free, 1-888-447-1653. That's 1-888-447-1653. Or you can visit us online at honeycombs.com. We'll be right back. And we're back. Once again, you're listening to That Health Show with David and Derek on Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX. Now, we've been talking about the science behind great energy, stress management, emotional balance, all these great things. Now, you're probably excited. You want to take vitamins to get that good nutrition in your body. But let's talk about how you can tell a good vitamin from a bad vitamin, because I want you to have the information to empower yourself to make the right choices, the smart choices for you and your family. Once again, I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, David, who's been working in the nutrition industry basically his whole life. And he has over 14 years experience as an adult in the field, working directly with people to get real results and spending time actually in the laboratory making vitamins and spending time in that manufacturing process. So, David, please, in your own experience, what are some of the things that separate a good vitamin from, let's say, a bad vitamin?
Well, keep in mind, Derek, here and listeners, that we never really did invent vitamins. They were always there. We just didn't discover them until a later date. So as we call manufacturing, we don't actually make vitamins. What we do is we harness them and mix them in supplementations to give the consumer the best results. So one thing that we found in my history of manufacturing and putting nutritional supplements together is that heat is one of their worst enemy. We have found that heat kills every living organism at 118 degrees. So
that's it. Just 118 degrees.
Yeah, if I put you in the oven at 118 degrees, you're donezo. So
toasted, huh?
Yeah, and that goes, and we can prove this even with food. So, for an example, just for fun, if you're at home and you cook, say, your carrots. Now, your carrots, what gives a carrot a nice crisp break is enzyme activities kind of still functioning for you. When you consume that carrot, you not only do you get the nutrients from that carrot as nutrients, like the beta carotene, you also get the vitamins and aka the coenzymes that go with it. Once you cook that carrot, it goes really mushy. It goes really soft.
Right, but the proteins start to break down.
Right, everything
the enzymes,
breaks down.
Everything falls apart.
You've kind of killed it all. Now, one good thing you do get from cooking certain things like vegetables is the minerals. You can never destroy a mineral. So that's something you can always get benefit from. However, your vitamins are a lot more sensitive. And as Derek mentioned earlier, especially water-soluble vitamins, what water-soluble vitamins mean is it's very important that we have to consume those regularly, because your body has absolutely no way of storing them as they do much like fat-soluble nutrients. So certain things, for example, like B vitamins, vitamin C, we have to always take these vitamins, because if we don't, then our body uses what it needs and it kind of it loses what it doesn't need. So we need to take them regularly. So we find that keeping them cold is very important. We also, at Honeycombs, we do a process called colloidalization. And what this means is we break these molecules down to very small particles. And the reason of this is we find this to be very beneficial is because as they're smaller particles, the digestive system doesn't really have to interfere with the absorption rate going into your body. And in comparison, we've had a lot of not only studies, but also a lot of testimonials of people taking tablets, and the tablet wouldn't dissolve. It wouldn't break down. The filler and the glue would still hold, and they would find that...
It's very true. I interrupt you real quick for just a second. For the listener, if you want to try this, it's on, I believe it's Consumer Lab or consumerlabs.com. And they actually have, based on the United States Pharmacopoeia, they have a home test that you can do. They call it a dissolution test, because when if you start with the rock hard tablet, it has to be dissolved and then disintegrated into the stomach juices, all that good stuff before you can even use it. And I'll tell you what, some of the rock hard tablets that are out there, you would be surprised to see how badly it fails those tests, because it's a time test.
Right. So as we consume those pills, and you imagine it, even if they're $1 a pack for vitamins, and you get no assimilation or no usable value out of them, you just kind of threw that dollar away. So getting liquid, we found in the colloidalization, cold press processing with a natural vegetable glycerin, which holds it very, very stable, we get maximum absorption, maximum use out of nutritional supplements versus our competitors. And we always find...
Something that comes to mind while you're on that note is, with the vitamins, and we say vitamins, I think most people think about these horse pills practically that you try to choke down, and they can be hard to swallow, and that makes it hard for people to stay consistent with actually taking them every day. So compared to those rock hard tablets, how much easier is it then to take a liquid multivitamin?
The liquid is a lot more easier because you can mix it with anything. You can take it straight. You can mix them together into one smoothie or just even in water. So the convenience of it is a lot easier than trying to choke down 15 pills, as you can imagine.
Yeah. So it's safer too, probably.
Right. The quality is there, and we're again, this is something we've raised in our entire family for my entire life is manufacturing. And we've done a lot of errors in the past, just the same we've done a lot of right things. And so kind of knowing what's starting to work, and you can really see what works by how people are feeling after starting a regimen. And so you can imagine if you're taking a regimen and you're not feeling any different over an excessive period of time, then clearly something's wrong. Something's not working right. So it may be a good idea, and just to trial and error, to try something new. So by trying something new, if you start feeling a change in your daily activities, then it may be a good idea to kind of try something different. And we know in our evidence with our manufacturing practices here that the liquid, cold-pressed, colloidal form has shown to give maximum abilities.
Now, for the listener, maybe you missed it earlier. We gave out our contact information. Maybe you have vitamins already. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're listening and just saying, well, hey, this sounds great. I want to give myself that extra boost of nutrition because, as they say, if not now, then when? When are you going to take action? When are you going to start so you can start feeling even better? So Fantastic. If you missed it earlier, let me again remind you that you can learn more about what we do at Honeycombs Industries by visiting us online at honeycombs.com. That's honeycombs with an S on the end. honeycombs.com, or give us a call toll free at 1-888-447-1653. That's 1-888-447-1653. Now, we have just a little bit of time left here, a couple minutes. Please, David, I cut you off to give that information out, but please, just more in your own experience, tell us about some of the things that separate those good vitamins from the bad and all that good stuff.
Well, and vitamins and the minerals, as well as nutrients, not just vitamins and minerals, but even valuable nutrients and foods. Of course, I think we're all pretty well aware of kind of, the quality being the most important thing. But you're right, Derek. When is a good time to start considering your health? And it's something my dad's always said, kind of growing up. He says, well, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over, you're going to keep getting the same results over and over and over and over. So if you're doing something that, say if you've been taking supplements that you're just not happy with, you still just don't feel the way that you feel and need to feel the way that you feel, and feel like a change may be necessary, try something new. What do you got to lose? So we've been doing this for many, many years and had a lot of trial and errors, as I mentioned, to kind of see what does and what does not work in the best aspects. And here we're very, very specific on how we process our products as well as manufacture and what that exposure to those products are. So again, I mentioned things like heat. 118 degrees is devastating to our value of nutritional level, alcohol base. If you find ethanol in the ingredient list, you're going to find that the value is going to be depleted dramatically. So if heat's been exposed, if alcohol's there, if you're taking a horse pill or a tablet.
Right. I hate to cut you short because we can go on and on and on. But for the listener at home, I can't say it enough. If you want something you've never had, you have to try something you've never done. Now, for you, maybe that includes taking some good quality-made vitamins. I want to remind you that with Honeycombs Industries, all of our products are backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. What this means is you can't lose by investing in your health through a company like Honeycombs.
I can't think of anything more important than investing in your health.
And now is the time. Now, speaking of time, we are out of time. For you, the listener, for more information about what we do at Honeycombs Industries, give us a call toll free, 1-888-447-1653. That's 1-888-447-1653. Or you can visit us online at honeycombs.com. Thank you so much for listening to That Health Show with David and Derek on Independent Talk 1100 KFNX. Be sure to tune in next Monday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time.
We'll be here.
That's right. For more of That Health Show, sharing the latest health information, helping to empower you to make the right choices for yourself and your family.
And we promise you'll learn something new every time.
Guarantee it. Thank you so much and take care.